It's the first new moon of the astrological new year, and it's not just any new moon. It is a partial solar eclipse in Aries, the final Aries eclipse until 2032. This Aries solar eclipse isn't simply a new moon, it's a cosmic jump asking you to step fully into who you are born to be. In this episode, we're exploring how this powerful eclipse helps you confront your old fears, break old patterns, and claim your self actualized leadership in your own way and on your own trailblazing path. In the age of Aquarius, all of us are called to lead. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for joining me again. There's so many new faces here. And if you're new, welcome to Star Powered. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your host, a multiracial, multifaceted professional musician turned web designer turned astrologer. Astrology helped me overcome an identity crisis by revealing my star-powered strengths. Now I use these strengths to guide healers, entrepreneurs, and changemakers like you in making your mark with ease and impact through astrology. If equitable leadership, making your mark, and astrology are also your jam, please subscribe to this channel and share with an astrology-loving bestie. All right, welcome back, Luminary. It's so lovely to chat with you again. I know there's been a lot of episodes in March. It's been such a wild time. So many things that I want to share with you. Well, this partial solar eclipse in Aries, again, our final Aries eclipse until 2032, and even longer until we get another Aries North Node eclipse. This is our final pathway so that we can jump into that next level. Now, one of my favorite things that I say in my business is become the luminary leader you are born to be. And I absolutely know that no matter if you are a healer, a caretaker, an solopreneur, or a CEO, or an executive, or wherever you fall on that, if you need to get things started, if you need to advocate for what's right, if you need to take care of others and be a role model guiding others, then you are a leader. And the sooner that you can understand your power and your strengths in your inner leadership, the sooner you can start to make some of that impact, whether you want to be the head of the show, or you want to be that perfect right hand person, or you want to be behind the scenes contributing your epic ways of doing things. Yes, you are a leader. Now, when we have an eclipse, remember that an eclipse, especially an eclipse that happens on a new moon, which is called a solar eclipse because the sun is being eclipsed by the moon. These eclipses are basically cosmic catalysts because they are sparking and they are changing and they are breaking open old cycles, and they demand us to take leaps of faith. Now, this Aries solar eclipse is not at that 0 degree world axis point, but it is so close to it, meaning that this part of the cosmos is being totally activated. In the world, we are going to be seeing so many breakthroughs, but individually, for you and for me, we are going to be also experiencing our own personal breakthroughs so that we can begin to add this to the collective story. Now, at the time, we'll talk deeply about the astrology of this particular new moon, this solar eclipse. But at the time, Mercury retrograde is going to be at that potent Aries point, that 0 degree. And then Neptune is preparing to jump off the Pisces cliff after 14 years and dive into also that Aries 0 degree point. So this eclipse is really stirring up a perfect storm of cosmic activations, new beginnings, personal recalibrations, and collective evolution. Now, this is both an ending point and a starting point. We are going to be still unraveling this all the way until 2026. So, in today's episode, I really want to uncover and discover why solar eclipses always invite us to take leaps into the unknown, how this Aries North Node journey over the last 19 months has been preparing you for this moment, what it means to recalibrate your fear responses, rewrite old stories, and claim your leadership, and really start to paint that pathway of the astrology that's shaping 2020, the rest of 2025 and into 2026. Why this Aries point, 0 degree point, will stay active for the next 12 months. And then I will, as always, personalize your eclipse activations for your rising sign. So, to help you plant your seeds of intention in your leadership. Remember, these eclipses are asking you to jump. Stop waiting, stop perfecting, and jump into who you are born to be. It's the first new moon of the astrological new year, the sun in its sign of exaltation, a true superstar in Aries. And it's not just a new moon, it's a solar eclipse, a turbocharged new moon where the sun and moon are in perfect alignment, the moon sitting exactly between the earth and the sun. This is both a potent news cycle that requires a leap of faith, jumping into the unknown, and the ending of a cycle that began 19 months ago, asking us all to leap into our self knowing and self actualization and self being. As this is the final Aries eclipse of this particular cycle, you can think back over the last couple of years where we've had two other Aries solar eclipses. The one that's the most prominent to me was last year's solar eclipse. Not only did I go to Arkansas to go see it, and it was truly a vision to remember, but that particular eclipse was conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron, the wounded healer, is still in Aries. It's about at 20 degrees of Aries right now, having moved on just a little bit from where that eclipse was last year at 19 degrees of Aries. But that eclipse last year was asking us to really integrate all of our past wounds and core wounds and really see the gifts of those wounds and contribute it back into our leadership. And really, for me, that's always been a theme that I've been really hoping that people would understand, that all of our greatest challenges are also the sources of our greatest gifts. Because all the things that we've learned to overcome and surpass, all those skills that we needed to build, all of the things that we needed to learn, all of the lessons that we need to overcome, that has built us strength. That has given us power. Our lived experiences, the things that we have overcome, are our true superpowers that we need to recognize and really bring out of the shadows of shame and contribute that into our leadership. And so that was really highlighted last year during this Aries eclipse. But this particular Aries eclipse has a different story. Now, it is the last Aries eclipse because, the North Node has already moved into Pisces. It's in the late degrees of Pisces, so it's still kind of near this eclipse. We'll take a look at that when we look at the astrology of the solar eclipse. And I want you to kind of look back at the last 19 months and notice how far you've come in charting your own path, recognizing your competitive edge and becoming your very best self. Now, it doesn't always mean that we're going to be looking at all of our successes. I know personally for me, over the last 19 months, things have been really, really challenging in my life. I had my mom pass away. I've seen my business kind of like have some dips and ups and downs. I've seen my visibility start to wane a little bit, but life is a cycle. And even though things in my success story have gone a little bit down, I realized that my inner roots, my inner strength, my inner compassion, my connection to my family and my communities and in my personal life have really grown very, very rich. That is helping me then now to come back over that cycle. So even if your pathway has gone a little bit down, your success pathway and your outer life has gone down just like mine, it doesn't mean that we haven't been charting our own path and recognizing what it means to be our very best self. Because for me, being my very best self wasn't just focusing on work, but it was also focusing in on my personal health, my personal life, and the people that are closest to me and my family. And so look back over the 19 months. What have you learned about yourself, that kind of self-knowing? What have you become in that self-actualization? Who are you now that is different than who you were 19 months ago when we had our first Aries eclipse? Now, I want to talk a little bit about the world axis point of Aries of 0 degrees. I talked a little bit about that during the sun entering Aries, the equinox, the astrological new year. And so if you want to go back to that episode and listen to that. But this particular eclipse is within not is 9 degrees away from that Aries of 0 degree point. And that Aries of 0 degree point, also known as the world axis, is the starting point of the zodiac. Remember that the zodiacs go from 0 to 29 degrees for a total of 30 degrees. And that beginning point, that point that rises on the eastern horizon, the solar seasons, not the sidereal constellations, but the solar seasons that mark that 0 degrees of Aries point according to the solar seasons in the cosmos. That point is a very potent point because whatever activates that point, when the sun crosses that point, when any of the planets that cross that point, if you have any planets near that point, you are absolutely part of the greater world dialogue. For astrologers that study mundane astrology in terms of like predicting what nations will do and what and the world's people will do, they're always looking at this chart of that Aries ingress when the sun moves into Aries, because that actually is like the birthday of the earth, and it shows you what can be happening if you look at your chart and you look at what's happening at when the sun goes into Aries of 0 degrees. That's going to reveal a whole lot of different things. Of course, this is more of an advanced technique, so if this goes over your head, I apologize. But if you know how to look at your chart, and if you know the time of that the sun moved into Aries, just look at the transits of that time, and if you know how to read your transits, you'll discover something very, very interesting. But of course, that's talking about events. I love talking about natal astrology and what's happening for us. How do we interpret what we need to understand and what we need to hear of the stars? If you're interested in interpreting your natal chart for your own luminary leadership, what you are here to do like no other, why you do what you do, how you do what you do, and for who you are meant to serve, then my course, Star Powered Position, is for you. It will set your business, your personal brand, your business brand up on a foundation so that you know the space in the marketplace that you are meant to take. Even if you don't have a business, Star Powered Position is a really great foundational course for you so that you can begin interpreting your big four: sun, moon, rising, and descendant. So you know exactly your strengths, how you're meant to do things, and who you are meant to serve. Head on over to my website at starpowered.com/SPP to sign up now. Well, let's take a look actually at the astrology of this potent eclipse, because I want you to understand just the timing of this eclipse. And once we understand what this eclipse is timing and the questions that it's asking us, we'll have a better story to be able to understand what we are meant to intend and how we are a part of the world conversation. Disregard the house calculations of this particular new moon, as I have the chart cast from San Francisco where I live. We're going to be focusing on the different planets, and you can see that everything is so tight right now between 9 degrees of Aries, where the solar eclipse is, to back to 24 degrees of Pisces, where Saturn is. We have just kind of this pileup between Aries and Pisces. Notice that Mercury is still in retrograde at that 0 degree, the world axis point. You can notice that Neptune, who's been in Pisces for the last 14 years, is ready to jump out of Pisces. It's at 29 degrees, 58 minutes. Neptune will be diving into Aries the day after on the 30th. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I have a whole episode on that as well. Venus is still in retrograde. She's still going to be in retrograde for a couple of more weeks. She's now back in Pisces. And then our North Node at 27 degrees. So this is 13 degrees away from the node. So that's why this is a partial eclipse and not a total eclipse, because while we're still within that 19 degrees from a nodal point, which creates the eclipse, we're far enough away that it's not a total eclipse. And then we have Venus conjunct the North Node, and then Saturn there at 24 degrees. Later on, Saturn will also be joining Neptune in Aries. They will be meeting later in 2026, exactly at that 0 degree Aries point, although they will be in basically an orb of a conjunction for most of the ending of 2025 and most of 2026. It's kind of fascinating. And so, well, I'll be talking about what that new cycle of Neptune and Saturn may bring for us individually. And we'll leave it to the mundane astrologers to talk about what that's going to mean for the climate in the world. But this particular eclipse is ruled by Mars. Mars is still in its shadow zone, having going to be spending 6 months between Cancer and then before it finally gets back into Leo. And so this Mars, the ruler of this Aries, is squaring with Chiron. So even though we have an in-sign conjunction, their Chiron and the new moon are very far away. However, we still have Chiron in the equation because it is in a square, a relationship, a challenging relationship that says, I dare you, I challenge you, I want to like square off with you. And so there's like this challenge to you, this almost like this trigger, again, back to your oldest hurts and pains around, is it safe to be you? Are you okay? Like, are you okay being exactly who you are? And for those of us in the Aries and Chiron generation, that's the story we've been trying to solve our entire lives. Is it okay to be me? If you have Chiron in the first house or Chiron in Aries, that's the question you've been asking your entire life. And everything that you've done to answer that question, between taking branding classes or like self-awareness classes or like spiritual self-help classes to understand yourself, that's your gift of contribution. That's the personal wisdom that you're here to contribute. And so it's beautiful to see that this new moon is still impacted by this Cancer, this Mars in Cancer, saying, how can we allow our emotions to motivate and energize us? Mars is also trining with Pisces, with the Pisces and Saturn there. And so, it's saying, how can we how can we allow our emotions not only to motivate us, but to also create our boundaries, motivate us to create our boundaries. But this square to Chiron here is saying, I challenge you to be proud about all of the challenges that you've overcome and impart them into your leadership. Because ultimately, right, when we're thinking about new moons, and a North Node new moon solar eclipse is asking us to take that leap of faith into our luminary leadership, because we're all leaders here. How do we want to be seen as a leader? How do we want to feel as a leader? How do we want to be? What parts of our identity do we want to showcase? What parts of our challenges make up our identity that really is an asset and not a liability? And so with Mars triggering and and daring this Chiron, it might not necessarily feel too pleasant, but I want you to rise up to the occasion, because remember, we don't want to run away from the friction and the conflict, because friction and conflict make things polished and really create momentum and change. So I find that so beautiful. Now, this new moon also, or this eclipse also near Mercury, really saying to advocate for yourself is to, or to advocate is to speak up for yourself, to speak up for what's right. Whew, lots of things going on with this particular solar eclipse. And so I wonder for you, as we had those reflection questions about like what has changed over the last 19 months, as you begin to like jump in that kind of trajectory even forward, who are you now and who are you still becoming? But as you think about who you want to be when you're crafting your intention, remember, I want you to craft it in the present moment. I am. That is the ultimate motto for Aries. I am. So remember, a solar eclipse happens when, from our perspective on the Earth, the moon blocks the sun's light. Both the moon and the sun are at the same sign at the same degree. But because the moon and the sun's path around the Earth isn't exactly at the same angle, at a new moon, they meet at this precise degree, but not the precise angle. But on an eclipse, they meet at the precise degree and the precise angle. And this happens up to twice a year. The precise angle is represented, of course, by those lunar nodes. And in astrology, when there is a lunation near a full moon or a new moon near the lunar nodes, this is when we have the eclipses. The nearer to the node the lunation happens, the more of a totality of that eclipse. And as I mentioned earlier, we're about 13 degrees away from the nodes. So this eclipse is not a total eclipse like it was last year. Now, when we think about the key processes for eclipses, of course, solar eclipses are for us to leap into the unknown. And they ask us the question, what are you finally ready to leap into? Who do you want to be? In Aries, the theme is to lead, to initiate, to motivate, to trailblaze, to know who you are and to know who you are at your very best. So Aries eclipse is asking, what are you self-actualizing? Who are you again in that present moment? Because this is a North Node eclipse, we are stretching into our soul and collective purpose. And when we bring this into the theme of the eclipse, I want you to notice, what are you improving in the world? With Mercury in retrograde in Aries at that 0-degree point, Mercury is here to rethink and recalibrate our mindset, our fear reactions that block us from our leadership. So Mercury retrograde in Aries, according to this new moon, is asking you, what mindsets allow you to move through fear? Venus in retrograde, of course, in Pisces and Aries, still all intertwined with this new moon, is asking you to reevaluate. We're past that midway point of that Venus retrograde. So you have had a few weeks already to reevaluate the people and the resources you value that allow you to thrive. What and who is important to you? Are you connecting to them? What is the value that you're contributing to the world? This is very important in your leadership. And lastly, we have Neptune and the North Node and Saturn all conjunct in Pisces. And it's asking you to commit to your soul purpose with interconnectedness. So what, who, and for what purpose will you commit to? Now, if you still don't know that, Star-Powered Position is absolutely going to help you. Sign up at starpowered.com/SPP. So, what I want you to do, especially over the next 6 months and even all through 2026, is I want you to watch this point on your chart. Look for where Aries of 0 degrees to Aries of 10 degrees exists in your chart, because that eclipse point is going to remain active for at least 6 months, meaning you're going to feel the impact of this eclipse. And so set your intentions so that you tell the universe where you want to go and trust that the universe is going to get you there as you take your leap of faith. And this is your reminder to do the work to build up your emotional tenacity, to break cycles and patterns of fear, and practice your self-care and compassion as you stretch into your highest self. But that point, that part of the sky, that 10, 11 degrees parts of the sky is going to remain active throughout 2025 and into 2026. Because remember that Saturn and Neptune are jumping out of the vast oceans of Pisces and being reborn into Aries. And so anytime any of those planets, they're going to be spending a lot of time at that 0 degree mark, but the moon is going to be going through, the sun is going to be moving through, Venus and Mercury are kind of going back and forth over through 2026. So I want you to notice that when these planets, including the moon, pass these points, how are you being asked to recatalyze how you contribute your genius into the world? It's really interesting to start to watch the moon as it continues over that 0 or 9 degree point. So if you're working with some kind of astro calendar or moon calendar, start paying attention to that Aries moon and see what happens and how you hear the rhymes and the ripples and the themes from this particular eclipse. So I want you to really harness this eclipse and understand how you're going to take some daring leaps into your valuable leadership. Who do you want to be? I want you to build up and flex your muscle, knowing exactly who you are and who you want to be. And I want you to dismantle and tell people to piss off when people start to tell you who you should be, especially if it's family or culture or society. I want you to know that your leadership has so much wisdom gained from your past challenges. And I want you to stop hiding your challenges and past. I want you to build up your deep dives, your emotional deep dives, to confront the root of your fears and dismantle silencing your secrets and your deepest shames. Stop silencing your fear patterns and bring them to light. I want you to build up the power of your differences and your individuality, your one of a kind trailblazing self. And I want you to dismantle upholding shames from systems and oppression that tell you to conform. I want you to build up your soul squad or accountability partners to help you do this deep work, because you are not here to face your fears alone. We face our fears and overcome our shames when we are witnessed, when we are supported with others that love us. I want you to also really build up your energy and capacity with that Piscean compassion and stop attempting to fix others without their consent. And lastly, I want you to build up how you want to feel as an authentic leader, because you are born to lead. We need you as a leader. I hear you. I know you are hearing the call, and I want you to dismantle remaining afraid of your own power. So let's take a look how this eclipse is going to activate your chart. Remember that, like a new moon, an eclipse, if you can find that degree point and which house contains that degree point, that's going to show you the area of your life and your work and your leadership that is asking for a fresh intention. And with this eclipse, it's asking for you to take leaps of faith in your leadership's work. So if you are an Aries rising, or if you have Aries of 9 degrees, the eclipse point in your first house, you're taking leaps of faith into your natural born, initiative taking identity. If this new moon is activating your second house, you might be a Pisces rising. And if this is you, you're here to take leaps of faith into your luminary leadership's values, worthiness, and go get it resourcefulness. If this eclipse is activating your third house, you might be an Aquarius rising. And if this is you, I want you to take leaps of faith into the way that you teach in your own innovative way and your thought leadership. If this eclipse is activating your fourth house, you might be a Capricorn rising. And if this is you, I want you to jump into your frontline accountability space holding. Yes, you're not here to hold space for everyone. Be choosy. If this eclipse is activating your fifth house, you might be a Sagittarius rising. And for you, you're being asked to take leaps of faith in your luminary leadership's heart-centered, joyful, creative endeavors. Your bliss really allows you to be a luminary leader. If this eclipse is activating your sixth house, you might be a Scorpio rising. And if this is you, you are taking leaps of faith by streamlining your routines and prioritizing your powerful healing. If this eclipse is activating your seventh house or you're a Libra rising, I want you to take leaps of faith into creating partnerships with your risk-taking allies and trailblazing collaborators. If this eclipse is happening and activating in your eighth house, you might be a Virgo rising. And for you, your leap of faith into your leadership is through transformative, integrative empowerment. What that means, share and build power, not just for yourself, but for others. If this eclipse is activating your ninth house, you might be a Leo rising. And for you, this leap of faith goes into your global pioneering and your visionary trend setting. Let your purpose lead the way. If this eclipse is activating your 10th house, you might be a Cancer rising. And for you, a leap of faith is to delivering, even if it's not perfect or done yet, as an expert in your emotional pioneering. If you have this eclipse activating your 11th house, you might be a Gemini rising. And for you, a leap of faith is through your community building and social impact activism. How can you take leaps of faith with the people that you surround yourself with? And lastly, if this eclipse is activating your 12th house, you might be a Taurus rising. And for you, your leap of faith is into your passionate, soul affirming wisdom. Know that you are wise beyond years. All right, my friends. Well, thank you so much for joining me and talking about this Aries eclipse. I really, truly hope that you see that you are a luminary leader. I hope you're able to reflect back on the last 19 months as we have experienced these Aries eclipses, because this was our shortcut, our wormhole, our quantum leap into our own self-actualization. You are a leader, and the world needs what you have to offer. All right, my friends, let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with an astrology loving bestie. Bye for now. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.